Okay, hello everyone. This is our Cosmobiology Institute research meeting. We have two meetings at the near the end of the month. One at 8 a.m. my time on the East Coast of the U.S. on Sunday morning. That's our meeting, and then we have one on uh, Monday evenings. So they're 12 hours apart from each other. This helps this be comfortable for more people. And some more people have logged in. Hello, Anne, and hello, Alexey.
Right.
Okay, let me read it. Are there multi-annual? Okay, have a question here from Ton. I'll add that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'll add this fifth topic. Okay, um, we'll go through these fairly quickly. That'll give us time for questions, new topics, discussion. We have just an hour and a half. So let me hit on some 5 points briefly, and then we can go through whatever you're interested in because we're here for you. We're the vision and mission of Cosmobiology Institute is to develop a global research community, a global astrology research community. The more people that get involved with different perspectives, different interests, different talents, different ways of involving, the more we can move an evidence-based astrology forward. Um, in my humble opinion, the need to critically evaluate ideas in astrology is enormous because it's still quite standard, even in major astrology conferences and professional organizations, to rely mostly on personal experience and tradition. Um, and we live in this fabulous information age with databases and all kinds of analytical tools. Um, Qualitative as well as quantitative, all kinds of clever ways to figure out if something is true or not. And we do make, in my opinion, we do make statements in astrology that can be confirmed or not confirmed more carefully than just by personal experience. Um, so number one, report on the conference. Okay, so we had the conference. Um, Several other people are here who were at the conference, Christopher, Vincent, Linda. So if you were at the conference, you may want to share some things. My thoughts about the conference is number one, it was fabulous to see people in person, in person, to actually meet, discuss things, share things. There's a kind of bonding, a kind of networking that happens when you're actually meeting live, which is different from these online meetings. We also had many interesting lectures, very, very fascinating. Christopher's work on cancer and sexual orientation, Vincent's work on end of life with and use of secondary progressions. Alexey is here. We had two people in Europe present videos, recorded videos, and Alexey's done some pioneering work on primary directions. Very, very carefully conducted research, excuse me, to really test whether the ideas that he uses in practice can they be confirmed. This is exactly what we need to do, really critically assess things. So the level of sophistication of many of the research projects is very impressive. The interaction, the setting was wonderful. Angela was the conference coordinator. She had um, breakfast and lunch in a room right across from our meeting room. So I've noticed when I go to astrology conferences, during lunch, everybody disperses. A lot of people leave the hotel, and it gets kind of fragmented and hard to pull things back together. So the convenience, the friendliness was great. The turnout was very low. Um, so this is something we're going to be working at with Cosmobiology Institute is can we not only survive but thrive as a new movement in astrology? Nothing's completely new, and there is Correlation Magazine and other activities, um, but I think that's our basic challenge. Those of you who were at the conference, Christopher, Vincent, Linda, and Alexei probably watched some of it remotely. Any thoughts about the conference?
Yeah, I thought it was wonderful. It was small but intimate. There was a great interaction
Yeah.
among a lot of people. And I like to point out that it was actually about the same size as I believe it was the 27th Solvay conference in Belgium back in the early 20th century uh, that was attended by Einstein, Niels Bohr, Max Born, Schrödinger. I like to say that Schrödinger was both there and not there at the same time. But that was the conference that sort of kicked off and started the formalization of quantum physics. And likewise, I think this conference is going to help a lot of things in evidence-based astrology advance and crystallize. So I think it's going to have ramifications as we go forward.
Very good. I agree. I think the evidence-based astrology movement is new. I mean, there's always been research done before, but having a network, people integrating, communicating on the scale that we're envisioning, and this, I think the conference was a turning point for that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So, Vincent, Linda, anybody else want to mention anything
About the, you mean about the Nashville?
about the conference, just in general, or yeah?
Uh, I could present the new research I'm working on since my return from Nashville. We were supposed to talk about that, but it may take 5 minutes, so maybe it's not pertinent now.
Yeah, let's go through the five topics and then we can hear about some of the latest research
Okay,
or anything you guys want to talk about. I would love to hear personally, I'd love to hear about Vincent's new research that he started since the conference, because that's why we're here. What are we doing? How are we moving forward? And through our dialogue, we can help each other. Okay, next topic. Oh, just topics and questions. So you have three, a certification program. We are planning at Cosmobiology Institute, excuse me, to develop a certification program. Most major organizations like ESAR, NCGR in the United States and also abroad in different places have certification programs. And we're thinking of two programs, one for practitioners, um, and this would cover things like what has research revealed about what we have more confidence in, what has not been confirmed. And this leads to the next topic of what an evidence-based practice is. Um, so anyway, we're thinking of this certification program. It's going to be a long process, but I think important because it would establish, um, criteria and goals that people can reach to confirm that they've developed facility and just a good breadth of understanding about what evidence-based astrology is. Um, and this is a topic, we can just spend a few minutes on this and come back to it later, but we often use this term evidence-based and evidence-based practice. And I'm not sure that everybody's familiar with it. When I did my master's degree program in research methods, the very last course I took was on evidence-based practice. And I was not looking forward to it. I like statistics, I like hardcore stuff. And, it just sounded kind of flimsy and a lot of qualitative stuff. It's arguably the most important course I took because it opened my eyes to a whole historical development that's extremely important, has affected psychology, medicine, and I think we're in the early stages of affecting astrology. And so, what is evidence-based? Is it just a term that basically means scientific? I don't know how much you guys are familiar with it. I was not familiar with it at all until I took that course. Um, so the short answer is that the term evidence-based practice was developed in the 1970s. It got formalized through the 1980s. It is a very specific, well-defined concept. It is not just a generic term for carefully researching things. Um, and the reason it developed is because it started with medicine, where two people independently exposed that a large amount of medicine is nonsense. The Rand Institute exposed it, and then a fellow researching certain kinds of surgery exposed it at a major lecture that he gave. And medicine decided they needed to get their act together because the medical practitioners are doing things that have very little or sometimes no evidence, and sometimes evidence that shows that the therapies they're using are actually harmful. So how the heck did that happen? And this was not really acknowledged until the 1970s, wasn't really fully addressed until the 1980s. And then other fields like psychology and other fields adopted evidence-based practice regulations as well. And one way to understand what happened is that in, say, physics or chemistry, things are sometimes determined with such precision, it's almost unbelievable. So they send rockets out into space and they land on, the moon or beyond, and etc. The formulas are very precise. And what happens in medicine, in the practice of medicine, not necessarily the research, but when somebody comes in with a problem, what do you do? There's very often only weak levels of confidence in anything. And the evidence-based practice movement addresses that and set up rules for how to deal with it. Okay, so that's just a little spiel I wanted to share. Fifth thing we have here, are there plans for a multi-annual research program based upon crucial research questions? Let's jump into that a little bit. Ton,
Yeah.
now we can dig into any of these topics. You can bring up new topics. I want to just quickly, overview a few things, but let's dig into this fifth one. By multi-annual, do you mean like every 2 to 3 years? It might be, and I'm not sure what you mean by research program. Do you mean like training program, or I'm not sure.
No. There are many questions as to astrology, some more important than others, and there are several main questions. And if we try to work together, it would be nice to share our resources to focus on joint research items that can make a big difference. Apart from that, each individual has his own research going on. but so more or less a vision on what questions are really important to be solved in what with what priority. So that was the, and I think that has a relationship with today's brainstorm about the certification program.
Absolutely. And that's one of the motivations for these meetings. We also have set up an online uh, place to share ideas and to share topics, the Go Collab platform that we're using, and these meetings to find out what research is being conducted, how it's being done, how other people might want to, peer review what's going on, add ideas to it, maybe collaborate. We need to know what individuals are doing,
Yes.
what they're excited about, what they're curious about, um, and what issues are involved. Like, what challenges do you have? Are you having challenges finding enough data, creating a control group? Um, what issues, what problems, what are we facing? Because everybody has been in their own little world, and that's exactly what we want to do. And so Vincent said he started some new research. He's very enthusiastic about it. Let's hear what you're doing. If we're all too modest and quiet and introverted and we don't share what's going on, we don't have communication, we don't have support system, we can't assist each other. Um, yeah, so this is a fundamental thing. And any ideas that any of you have about how to move this forward, one thing is this nice informal gathering for
Yeah.
us to share. I want to hear what you guys are doing, what you're excited about, yeah, so we can understand and collaborate.
Yeah, my question relates to that there is a bottom-up uh, process of doing research, that the way it is done now, and the first step, of course, is that we should be aware what everybody is doing. But there can also be more a top-down vision on what is important, and that should be, that should meet each other, of course, top down and bottom up. Uh, yes, that just to work on a vision of the most important research questions that are thinkable, that needs to be basically a research vision on astrology. So that gives also more steering to what kind of research we can do together.
Yes, I have one thought about that, which is I'll put here Santino, um, diversity of research methods and theoretical frameworks.
Mhm.
I'm a big advocate of this, um, that there are many kinds of research methods. I think there are some research methods that are undervalued. We kind of think, oh, well, that's not so great. And I'm thinking, no, it's wonderful because my view in an evidence-based practice is if something gives us a tiny bit more confidence, just a little bit more confidence that something in astrology works or doesn't work. And very often these come from exploratory research and qualitative research. That little bit of improvement is much better than zero
Hmm.
because the accumulation of personal experience and tradition from a modern research methods is not worth a whole lot. And any kind of formal or systematic approach where you don't have a lot of confirmation bias, selection bias, and just fundamental problems that make for almost no confidence, that's important. And also theoretical frameworks. I'm communicating with people in Vedic astrology. They're slowly but steadily moving forward in having more rigorous research to confirm the ideas. Alexey's research on primary directions. This is fabulous. You know, each one of us has our own theoretical framework. A lot of people using modern psychological approach. It's just one theoretical framework. There could be tremendous value in others. Anyway, that's one thought I have is that we want to support, understand, and be able to work with all the different things, but have very high standards with all of them.
Hmm.
We see in what people call case studies often is just anecdotal evidence. You know, we don't want to be indulgent. Yeah, I'm talking too much.
Yeah.
What are you guys thinking of?
Well, Santino,
Yeah.
uh, all of these comments that it makes me think of what happened in mathematics in the early 20th century. There was a famous mathematician named David Hilbert, and at a big conference, he gave a very important speech that directed the focus of mathematics for much of the rest of the 20th century. He proposed a list of unsolved problems in mathematics that he thought were really key issues that needed to be looked at. And for decades to come, uh, many people worked on the problems that Hilbert had proposed. So, yeah, that is certainly something we need to all be thinking about a bit. What are the most important things for us to work on in astrology in order to, make it evidence-based and to verify a lot of the fundamentals of our astrological model. And after we each think a lot about it independently, hopefully at some point we can all get together to discuss it. And as Hilbert did, come up with a vision that might help guide the progress of evidence-based astrology for some time to come. So that's, I think, a good idea that was put forth.
Uh, I'm just putting this here because it's so important. Uh, yes, David Hilbert's very famous list of unsolved problems, and some of them have just been solved. When did he do that, Christopher? I don't remember.
I don't remember exactly, as
Was
in the
it,
early part of the 20th
yeah, it
century.
was
He
early
was,
19, somewhere in the early 1900s, and
yeah, he was also, we talk about our advisor in graduate school as being our mother or father in that discipline, and then we have grandfathers, etc. So, in those terms, David Hilbert was one of my mathematical ancestors,
oh wow.
and a lot of my mathematical ancestors were very famous mathematicians. But there's uh, one way, and I like to point out there's one way in which I am much better or better off today. Uh, I exceed them in that they're all dead and I'm alive.
For how much time?
Yeah. Well, I'm getting older. I had a birthday yesterday.
Oh,
Oh yeah, I didn't see that on Facebook.
Yeah,
Happy
I'm
birthday.
74.
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
yeah.
You're young, you're young.
Okay, well, that I want to just underscore these points so we don't just run over them quickly. Um, but this is a very famous event in the development of mathematics. Some of the problems that Hilbert presented, and the problems he presented represented things that many of the mathematicians consider to be critical steps. It was not like an oddball thing, almost like a consensus or something that people could embrace. And some of those unsolved problems in mathematics, are still unsolved. Some of them have been solved just in recent years. So it's very exciting when one of those problems is solved. It's like it puts another piece of the puzzle in there. And it's just exciting to look at this puzzle with all the missing pieces and will they ever get filled in? And sometimes, a mathematician can feel like, we'll never solve this. And then boom, it gets solved.
Yeah,
So
interesting. Some very difficult mathematical problems, not necessarily Hilbert's problems, but uh, some difficult problems are now being solved by artificial intelligence.
yes. So just off the top of our heads, these, we're just brainstorming loosely here. What are some of the big questions in astrology that could be solved in the future? Or maybe they've only been slightly solved. And something's not solved when people don't agree and they're both convinced. Like what has been solved? And I know, Christopher, I know you have a bunch of them probably on the top of your head. Why don't you list a few of unsolved problems?
Well, first of all, just thinking about this also forces us to go back and assess what do we actually have evidence for now, which is very good. We have evidence that there are some things involving progressions that work. Vincent has helped provide that. Uh, he has also helped provide evidence that Western methods of astrology probably don't work well with sidereal zodiacs, that they work much better with tropical zodiacs. But it's still an open question, research-wise, as do, for instance, do Vedic methods work well with sidereal zodiacs? Um, some of the questions in, in my mind are one of the foremost ones is has to do with house systems. Uh, you know, do some house systems, can we show statistically that some work better than others? Or is it possibly the case that house systems really make no difference? We seem to have some evidence that both house systems and signs are much weaker, for instance, than aspects. Uh, but it'd be nice to get some clarity on house systems, and an approach that I was going to start was by looking first at just quadrants, because the one thing
Mhm.
that tends to be agreed upon is the ascendant, descendant, midheaven, and nadir of the chart. And if we can find some things which occur more often when a certain planet is in a certain quadrant, then we can start to refine that by examining to see which house system brings things into greater focus.
Mhm. Can I just add a few comments,
Yes,
or
please.
Sure, absolutely.
okay, it's about health system. We know probably that Kirsti Tarvainen made a few research about that system. It depends of your protocol. It depends what you're looking at, because some people, some health system work better with advanced, some work better with natal, etc. One of
Hmm.
his protocol was simply by looking, he used a lot Gauquelin data. So he was looking at career, specialty, just by the ruler of the ascendant falling into a house. And for instance, he found that politics, the ruler of the first fall to the 10th house, depending on the system, obviously. The ruler of the first, for journalists, fell into the 3rd house. Ruler of the ascendant fell for military people, fell, civil servants fell in the 6th house, etc.
Yeah.
So he tested about, I think it's 10 or 12 systems, and the best results were not Placidus, nearly equal. Koch, do I pronounce it correct? Koch,
Coke,
Koch,
Coke. Yeah,
and equal houses measured from the ascendant.
yeah. In the research that I've seen that's published in Correlation, uh, he's done good work, but in those papers, I think he used fewer than 10 house systems. So some of the house systems that I'm a little bit more interested in, like Campanus, Regiomontanus, I'm not sure that he looked at those.
I think so. I think so.
Well, we'll have to go back and check.
Yeah, me too. I got it here.
Yeah, yeah. He may have
I think so.
published some of those results elsewhere outside of correlation, and I may not have access to them.
This is Greg.
Okay.
Can I interrupt for just a minute?
Yes.
This is specifically what my research project is on. I already have some surprising results. If I could have about 5 minutes later in our discussion today, I'd like to share what I have so far and
Yeah.
how I arrived at it. I think it may interest you.
Yeah,
Okay.
Maybe it's a good time to do that now while we're talking about
yeah. I think
houses.
so.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead, Greg, and share a little bit about the research that you're conducting and the results you found so far, which are surprising. And this is, let me just say, when results are surprising, I get excited because it means that the researcher is not just setting things up subconsciously to confirm what they already believe. Where you're looking at the data and you go, oh my God. So anyway, go ahead, Greg. Why don't you share some of that now?
Okay, let me. Here we go. Share.
Oh, I don't know if I gave you the ability to share. Hold on.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
You can
Can I
share
share
now.
now? Okay.
Oh, and I'll stop sharing.
Come on. Entire screen.
And maybe you can summarize it without sharing. I don't know if you,
Right.
yeah. Okay,
Am
it's
I
starting to
sharing
share.
now?
It's starting to, it's coming up. There, oh,
Okay.
it's a little, no, it's a little crazy. Um,
And you see what
oh, now we do. Now I see
Yeah.
it. Okay,
Hmm.
good.
Okay. Just an overview. What I'm doing. I'm actually looking at 22 individuals, and what's unique about them is that they have conflicting signs on the seventh house. Like some will have Jupiter, and what you have the two systems that conflict. Majority of the systems are based on the ascendant, but there's also three systems I'm using based on the midheaven. And so they will occasionally put a different sign on the seventh house than what's the ascendant. And of course, all the houses will have that same discrepancy. But what it is, I'm looking at I'm specific events where my criteria is bringing two houses together. So, for instance, a marriage, I'm looking for is there evidence of aspects that unite the seventh and 10th house?
And let me clarify what you're talking about. You're using the ruler of the sign plus the house something's in, and that's how you get two houses involved based on
Yeah,
the ruler and the house being occupied. So
yes,
this assumes that rulers work, and it assumes that placement of planets and houses work. I think in research we have to state all of our assumptions because a lot of people will just say, well, of course, duh, we all know that. Well, no, we don't really know anything. So anyway, those are two assumptions. Go ahead.
yeah. So the page I have up now, what I've done for each person that I'm doing the research, I actually cast three predictive charts. I'm using 12 house systems. And the predictor charts, I have a transit chart. I'll point here. I have a transit, a secondary progression, and a solar arc directed. And then I look for events that bring them together. And I highlight wherever you have the two houses together. Now, this is the death of Hillary Clinton's mother. I'm bringing up her chart because I got a little bit of controversy I was going to ask for guidance on. But as I go through, I'll show you the systems I'm working on here. There's Alcibiades, Campanus, Equal House, Coke, Midheaven. On the 10th, it's Equal House starting from the Midheaven instead of the Ascendant, which I actually have found is to be the most reliable so far. I'm using Meridian, Marinus. Yeah, I got the names up here. Now there's Marinus, Placidus, Porphyry, Regiomontanus, Tropocentric, and Whole Sign. Now you notice in this particular event, every single system had something that tied them together. For instance, what I'm looking at here, they have directed, solar arc directed Venus in her 8th house. This is death of a mother. I'm looking for something to link the 8th and 4th house. And it's sextile Mercury, which rules her 4th. So at the directed level, you have Venus in the 8th, sextile ruler of the 4th, which ties the two together. Then at the transit level, the moon, and I had her death time. So the moon was at that exact same degree. Within a few minutes of a degree, the moon was in the 8th sextile Mercury, the ruler of the 4th. Mercury and Saturn are within 1 minute of a degree sextile each other or square each other. So it triggered both. But what I'm showing here is that the symbolism, they have their aspects linking the 8th and the 4th house. So let me go back to my summary.
Yeah, the summary. I'd like to know how many subjects you have and what are your results for the moment.
Yeah, so what I've done, if you look here, these hundreds, this is a percent. Because if you notice, like I did Konrad Adenauer, I did 5 life events versus like Hillary Clinton, I did 2. Well, I don't want his chart to be more emphasis than the other. So each person, I take the events and then what's compliant, I turn it into a percent. Mm-hmm. For instance, on this Alcibiades, Konrad Adenauer, all 5 of his events, had the 2-house correlation. Versus Equal House, you see 80, 4 of the 5 had it. And
so, Greg, just to sum this up, so far you've done how many people? 7?
I have done so far 8 people and 23 life events.
8 people, okay.
8 people and 23 events. And so far we see 94% for one house system and 90 for another. They seem to be conspicuously higher than the others.
Yes.
Which house systems are those?
94% is midheaven, Equal House based on midheaven. Then the 90% is meridian.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so we have a lot of things we want to cover, and I'm really glad you shared this. This is wonderful. So you're like in the early stages of this, but you've assembled things. You've got a clear concept. There's many, many details. I mean, we could spend hours just going over the details of your research design.
I'm still about another month away from having it completed. Fortunately, yeah. I'm retired, so I'm working about 8 hours a day on this now.
I got a tremendous amount of work. One of the good things about this research is and I've been talking to Greg about this for some time. We met in person once about it, and um, his situation is that he's been using these ideas in astrology, for decades, and in his personal experience, they work. This is the situation with a lot of astrologers. They use something all the time, it works. This is also similar to Alexei's situation. He uses primary directions, they work. One approach to doing research is to take the things that you know in your heart and in your daily life work and test them as they are.
Mhm.
Because when somebody first looks at this research, they can say, oh my God, there's so many things that he's assuming work, that solar arc directions work, that progressions work, that transits work, that rulers of the houses work. Da, 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 da. How does he define what the orbs are? How does he do? You have many, many things that you're testing. And my view, and I'd like to hear the viewpoint of other people, is that if the researcher goes in doing that, because the researcher has personal experience and wants to know if their particular combination of ideas work, they're getting the answer to their question. And the researcher's question might be very different from my questions. But I think Greg's question is, do these, does this system that he's been using for so long and that he kind of knows from personal experience work, let's really see if it works. And for that reason, I like his overall concept. There may be problems with details we could explore. But Greg, did I say that properly pretty much?
Yes, you did. Yes.
Okay. I wanted to share that because for some of us who are doing research from a different point of view, it's not the way we would do it, but it's right for you. So Vincent, you go ahead.
Yeah, I got a few helping technical, simple questions. So it's going to be short questions. How many subjects do you want to? You said you got 1 month of work ahead, so it would mean how many subjects, different subjects, maybe approximately.
Well, by the end of next month, I intend to have all 23 of those. But my complete list is 52 people.
Okay.
It's just the 23 I selected out. They have a discrepancy on the seventh house cusp. So
Okay.
I already know there's going to be different results from the houses.
Okay. So my question is, what is, one big problem we have with the skeptics, and not even the skeptics, but, scientific people. What is your criteria of selection? How can you answer to people who say that you cherry picked your subjects?
Santino and I went over that at the beginning of the project. And
I hounded him about this at the beginning, Vincent.
Oh, yeah. I took a list that was totally independent of me. I took Time Magazine Man and Woman of the Year from the past 100 years.
Oh, cool. Oh, wow.
Then
Man of the Year.
I filtered those for AA Rodden ratings.
Perfect.
So out of 200 people, there's 53 that have an AA.
Yeah, that was my second question.
Vincent and I think exactly the same.
My second question was, did you restrict yourself to AA and A, maybe? Or you excluded C, D, Rodden, C, D, etc.?
Yeah, I excluded all of them.
Okay, cool. So you have AA? You have A also?
No, just AA.
Oh, you're too severe. You could take, I think.
Well, because he's using house cusps, he wants to be very.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so it's very.
That was correct.
Yeah. My third question: did you avoid the time finishing with zero, exact time on the hour, XX00?
Not if it has an AA.
They're very dumb.
I'm trusting it. When I took that out, when I took out the hour and a half hour, I lost over half of my subjects.
Okay, the answer excuse me, I'm French. So is the answer yes? I took 001 is AA. Is that your answer?
Yes.
If it's AA, I trust it.
Let me just clarify. He used times on the hour, on the half hour. He tried removing them and he lost over half his data.
Yeah, I know. I
So,
know that's terrible, but
because he
it's
has a small sample size of 50 something,
yeah, but
this
it's
is the trade-off. I want to like summarize this for everyone, make sure we're all clear about this. There are huge trade-offs in research. If your sample size is too small, you
yeah, but
can't
if
see
you're
very much.
let,
If
let me
if you're if you have a lot of measurement
excuse me.
error, hold
I
on.
understand. Let me
No, no,
interrupt
you
for that.
understand, but I
Please,
want
please,
hold
please, please,
on.
please, please. No,
Okay, go ahead.
this is not correct. It's working for nothing. Excuse me. If this gives what your Santino is telling, you have to change your criteria, find something else to get a bigger. But working with 0, 0, it's been proven by me and by Kirsti Tarvinen, it's worse than working with C and D because we prove that it's heavily rounded. And the proof is very simple. It's in correlation. 75% of 0, 0 data, even when it's AA, in Gauquelin files. So it means that we can estimate that it's rounded from 20 minutes, minus 20 minutes to plus 20 minutes. You absolutely should avoid 0, 0. It's extremely harmful for the research. We can talk a lot about that if you want. I don't have time to explain, but it's very, very harmful. So
I have a question, Vincent. If a time is on the hour, is there an estimate of how accurate it is? Like how
yes,
far,
yes,
what is the
we
estimate?
minus 20 minutes plus 20 minutes. And the problem is that the AA label is about the certainty we have that we have good documents. I mean, real documents, état civil, as we say in French. But it doesn't mean it's correct. In France, for instance, with the Gauquelin data, we know that the civil servants, because they're obliged to write the number in letters, they're lazy and they just round it to make it simple. So you got an AA data, which is false.
Okay, I have
So
another
excuse
question.
me,
What
but
about
I don't want you to work 1 month for nothing. So it's
Okay, hold
very,
on.
very, very important.
I have another
Very
question.
important.
So, Vincent, I have a question. If Greg, this would be a lot of work, but if he was to take the people whose time is on the hour, rerun it for 20 minutes earlier and for 20 minutes later, and if the houses remained the
No,
same,
it won't remain. It's too loose. He's going to lose
well, if it takes
everything. But
2 hours for a
by the
sign
way,
to
I love what you
change,
do, Greg. I love your protocol. It's very interesting. I mean, it's very, very promising. But I'm
yeah, but
sad that
Vincent, but
it's very dangerous.
what
No,
I'm
it wouldn't
saying,
work. It wouldn't work. No,
hold on, let me say something.
it moves too much.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you. Because it takes 2 hours, roughly, varies a lot, for the sign to change, there might be some cases where over that 40-minute span, it doesn't change. However, he's doing 3 methods, so I guess at least one of those probably is likely to change.
Santino, if it was as simple as you say, every system would work. I mean, the difference between different systems you tested are a lot smaller than this big amount of movement in 40 minutes. So it doesn't
Yeah,
make
it's going
sense.
to change at
Excuse
least
me. No,
one.
it doesn't work.
Yeah, you're right. He has a dozen different house systems, three
No.
different things. Something's going to always change. Okay, so
Yeah.
this is a
But
huge
it's
problem.
not a big deal. I mean, you just try to find another criteria because it was brilliant to take what you've done was brilliant to take the man of the month, no, the year, Time Magazine. I love that. So try to find a similar criteria that give you a lot more leeway. That was very brilliant, but you
Yeah.
may find something similar, then you will restrict to. I would go with A also. Let's say you restrict to AA and not 0, 0, and avoid also 30, like it's been said by Santino. point 30. And then you have very accurate data to make that wonderful piece of research.
Yeah.
So
Vincent,
Go
Vincent,
ahead.
what about birth times recorded on the half hour, like 4:30,
That's
5?
what I said. I would avoid them too.
Yeah, they've
It's
been
been
shown to
tested.
be inaccurate also.
It's less harmful, but it's been calculated by Kyosin by me, and it's
Yeah.
it's harmful. So
It is extreme. I agree with Vincent. In some cases, we found that 90% of charts with AA data from certain data, from Gawko and data is on the hour, half hour. Well, obviously,
Yeah.
over 90% of people are
actually,
not born on the hour,
you're
half
right.
hour.
If you include, actually, I found 70%, and Kyosi found with another file from Gawko, he found 80% on the
Yeah.
zeros on the hour.
Yeah, one of the tests
So-
I did,
So
I
if you
found,
want to,
yeah.
if you want to put it uniform to distribute it, it gives you minus 20 minutes plus 20 minutes.
Right. So one thing that could be done is Greg, if you took only the AA data of the man and woman of the year, and then you found another criterion, like, I don't know, some other, like, won awards or something, some other recognition. There's got to be something besides man and woman of the year from Time Magazine. Then you could combine those together. So you're not wasting a lot of the effort you put into
I
it.
can share my solution if you want, Greg. I don't know if you'll like it. You can work only with royalty. So this is a good non-cherry picking system, royalty, prince, princess, king, queens. And we know that their birth data are recorded very accurately.
Yes.
So usually they're AA data, not on 00. You can check it. I worked with that method.
Yeah, one
If
of the
you want to
studies
do
I've
it-
already completed is Queen Elizabeth II.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, and I was able to trust that. And I know even if you go back several centuries, that they recorded those times.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Okay,
She's
well,
born-
I'm going to give it some serious consideration. Another thing I
Yes.
could do is when I have my results, filter it, show what it is with the whole study and what it is if I filter these others out to see what the difference is.
Hmm.
But already your data is your sample is very small. So if you filter, you won't keep enough data to get
But I
significant
can
p-values.
and like Santino had brought out and you mentioned, I can find a second group to draw data from.
Yeah, that's not to lose what you already done. It's good. It's good.
No connection to me personally.
I agree. It's good. So you don't lose what you've done with your criteria. You lose only the 00, and you find another criteria, the same type of objective criteria. That's good.
But yeah, royalty would be good because what I was trying to do, especially with time, I wanted people. You not only have the birth information, but you have lots of details with dates that about their life events.
Hmm.
Yes.
Because I'm using
yes.
events to correlate to houses.
Yes.
So royalty, you definitely, have a good history of what happened to them.
That's a very good point you bring there. I fault with that because I work with royalties on the rectification event method, and you have to get rid of formal event like Prince Charles visit Ontario, Toronto, Army. This is not an event, but
No.
he got his diploma as a helicopter or something like that, or his mother died, or this
Okay.
is personal big events. Yeah.
Vincent,
Yes.
do you already have a list of royalty with the hour and a half? Do you have, maybe Greg could just.
It's about, yes, but it's not big. It's 10. Very obvious people like, the
Okay,
England family, Brittany family, and Monaco.
Okay. I want to just say one thing. I agree with Vincent. So much research that I've done, I did something a little bit sloppy just because I'm human and I have only so many hours in a day. And then I have regretted over and over and over again
Mm,
taking a shortcut has killed me so many times.
me
You know
too.
that, and I have finally, after being making stupid mistakes like this over and over and over again, I finally slowed down and I tend to do things very carefully and precisely because I've wasted huge amounts of time
Mm,
and the data was not good enough for what I wanted to do. I thought it would be good enough, but I paid for that sloppiness. So I tend to agree with them that it's better. You don't want to make the same mistake Vincent and I have made
mm.
over and over again.
Okay,
So, yeah,
that's
uh,
easy to correct.
yeah,
Can I say something in
yes,
addition to our conversation? So I would like to roll back our conversation to the initial questions you raised during your introductory speech. And first of all, discussing the movement of the based evidence astrology, I think we all need, first of all, to agree on the evidence, what we call evidence between us. Because, uh, for instance, in my past research or my previous research, which was published in Correlation Journal, I had like 270 with something predictions with outcomes, but most of them were rejected. And I picked up only 11 of them for the mini test, just based on one criteria. Most of the predictions or events or evidence are not actually objective. For instance, if the question, will I get large salary this month? And the answer is yes, you will have salary which is large. And after that, the person really receives a huge salary. The question still arises, what is the large salary? What is the criteria of measurement of this evidence or
Mhm,
this event? This is quite subjective and inaccurate. The same in psychology. When we estimate based on the chart if the person is introvert or extrovert, I mean, what is the criteria? The extrovertness or introvertness changes with ages. I mean, this is not a static parameter. And the same with the events. Most of the events, for instance, are subjective. I mean, they already have subjective measurement of high, low, I know, big, small, large, heavy, light, or whatever. And some of the evidence or the, mm, I would say, events, final outcomes, are actually could be achieved by the person who is self-programmed when he heard the prognosis. And that's also the problem. When I say the person that you will do blah, blah, blah this month, probably he unconsciously tends to do that because he was said to do that. I mean, this is a self realized prognosis, I would call it this way. So for my research, I very accurately picked up the events where the person cannot influence the outcome. For instance, when the person is waiting for the SMS from the government authority, SMS as a confirmation of the application received, the person cannot influence the government authority at all. And the time and exact minute of the SMS arrival doesn't depend on the person's will. So this is the right event to observe. So that's the first point I would like to just raise as the question of our internal agreement of the evidence, what we call evidence, which are objectively measured. And that's very important criteria, I believe. The second thing is about the standards of the uh, evaluation or standards of the protocols which we use. Because as far as I see, most of the researchers, or at least some of them, really try to test specific techniques. Does this sidereal system against the tropical system work, or does this house work in that particular manner, or does that planet in the sign work, or does this aspect, or whatever? This is just the parts, small parts of the whole puzzle. Actually, the event, which is the evidence, is derived from the predictive system, not just one particular technique. System, it means, like what Greg presented us, the solar return, lunar return, transit, progressions, ingressions, whatever, as a whole system. So if we want to test something, it should be not a separate techniques, but rather systems, complete, coherent systems, which are practiced in astrology as a common agreed practice, I would say. So this is something we really need to test, because this is something which is designed from our predecessors, excuse my English, I'm also, it's not my native language, but our predecessors. I hope I pronounce it right, but you understood. Okay, so these systems used to be applied worldwide among Western astrologers, and they are designed in such a way that they actually aimed to predict some events. So we can actually effectively use the methods or protocols to measure the effectiveness of systems at all. I mean, as an entity, which includes several techniques. In my vision, it is impossible to test a specific technique effectively, because there is no prognostic technique or predictive technique which is based just on a specific instrument, like just on progressions or just on primary directions or something else. We need something bigger than that. And from that perspective, I think that one of the interesting research opportunities for us is the usage of neural networks, which I'm actually interestingly investigating at the moment. And the idea is that the neural network can, based on the numerous charts, understand within these neural nodes the internal correspondence or internal interactions between different parameters, like planet in the house, planet in the sign, aspects between planets, rising star, I mean, the cusps or whatever. These all already hidden within the neural network. And we can at least answer the first question for us, whether astrology, predictive astrology, work or not in general. Because if the neural network can find the signals, the terminology from the neural network methodology, it means that there is a correlation between the star constellations and the real events. And once we found it, once we proved that astrology work, after that, the second question would be, what exact correlation? I mean, what exact system does really work? Because any law, any, how it's better to say in English, any correspondence between different astrological parameters that neural network finds, it keeps itself within itself hidden from us as the programmer or as the observer. So we can see that out of box, the neural network can predict effectively events, but we still don't know which exactly astrological system is written within these weight coefficients between all these neural nodes. And we need to find out. So probably the first step is to understand, I mean, between us, based on the neural network research, if astrology, predictive astrology works at all. And after that, try to test not separate techniques, but the whole systems. So that's my point. And probably to be more effective as the society or as the group of enthusiasts, we need not just to agree about methods, about the methodological frameworks, but probably we need to publish them on our site, on the site of Cosmological Institute, just to share our standards, according which all the researcher can follow their researches. And the final thought about our general movement of evidence-based astrology is that we not just need, as far as I see, gather together on these internal conversations, but probably carry out our researches on the astrological conference. I know that for the most of the astrologers, it will be shocking content, because they are flying in these ephemerical concepts of past lives and whatever. And if we come out to the astrological conference with numbers and statistics, they will be shocked. But it's quite normal, because this is the way we can start influence the society, the astrological society. Before that, we had a very small group of people who are only few astrologers probably aware about. And this way we can propagate our knowledge. I believe the social network distribution is not so effective, because the social network is mostly for funny content, easy content, and not for the research outcomes. But the astrological conference could be a good target to start growing, because I'm pretty sure that there are lots of astrologers who would be potentially interested in such experiments, but they are not aware of existence of Cosmobiological Institute. So this my general thoughts on your notes that you raised up in your introductory speech, Santino.
Wow. That's
Thank you.
fabulous, Alexey. I've got 5 points that you made. I want to just list them quickly, and you can confirm if I've specified these correctly. And there may be others I missed. Number 1, the importance of well-defined criteria. Number 2, do not fall into the trap. In English, we say self-fulfilling prophecy. Number 3, doing research that's not just one specific technique, but reflects the coherent, complete system that an astrologer uses. Number 4, I think you're talking about neural networks, is how we would say that in English, that we can use neural networks to find relationships, for example, between the predicting variables and the events. And then after the neural network finds something, dig in to find what variables are actually involved, because the
Yes,
neural network does
precisely.
not do that. I also made notes that there, in addition to neural networks, there are things like random forests, SVMs, even regression. So there's a number of related methods. We can talk more about that. And number 5, you make the point that we need to make our findings available. It can be shocking to people. We don't want to just put it up on a social media. We need to have a way for people to realize that we have real evidence. Those are 5 points I extracted. Is that a good
Yes,
reiteration, a summary of some of the
yes,
key points?
absolutely.
Okay. It's wonderful. You're doing exactly what Christopher mentioned at the beginning. This is the brainstorming of a small group to establish, how we can function. This is fabulous. Wonderful. Vincent?
Yes, thank you for your everything you said, Alexey. Like you, I'm attracted by whole system testing, like the whole chart. And so I understand and I agree with this approach. I was lost a bit when you spoke about neural network. I'm not familiar with that, but it looks interesting. If the question comes now, how can we start with a whole system to determine some more specific factors? Here is a brilliant idea that was given to me by Kyösti Tarvainen that we may call, that you can apply probably, that we may call it a subtractive approach. You take your old system and you remove one factor and you retest again. So if it's better, it means that this factor was a burden. If it's not better, but it's lesser, and if you remove and you lose significance, it means that factor is very important. So that's brilliant. You can, with what I like is that with a whole system approach, you can be specific about different techniques and factors by subtracting. What do you think about that, Alexey?
I agree. It sounds promising. And regarding this selection, you raised the question about how can we select the systems. So we can start with something which is very well established. For instance, approach of William Lilly in the horary astrology charts, because most of the schools and most of the old and modern schools of astrology, they rely on the Lilly's work, and the standard techniques are, I mean, they're technically the same. So what we can do is actually take the hundreds of predictions, some of which are fulfilled, some of which didn't, and then as a first approach, ask the same question to the control group of non-astrologers and to see if astrologers' predictions against the predictions of random people coincide. And the most interesting thing is to look at the events which would happen with a very low level of probability, like at which particular day this person will be fired. This is not just yes/no answer. This is pinpointing an exact day out of probably 365 days within the year. And the probability of random guessing of just one day is 100 per 365, which is very small. And if you take prognosis like that, for instance, with exact timings, which horary astrology are capable of doing, it's very easy to test if horary astrology works or not. I mean, that's my thought, my first idea of how to select the whole system, astrological system to test. The horary astrology would be my first top choice.
Yeah, it's great. Just use non-astrologers as your control group. And
Yes,
sometimes there's ways to make control groups that are obvious after you think of it, but we don't always think of it ahead of time. So that it's good to, yeah, I like that. Yeah,
Can I try?
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, hello everybody. I'm quite new to this. And I don't consider myself academic, so that's my disclaimer straight away. I find myself thinking about this in a slightly different way. I find I'm asking, what is the market for this research? Who are we trying to address it to? Non-astrologers, ourselves? Are we just keeping it in a corner? And I hear from the research conversations I've come across about statistics and p-values, and it all just seems defensive. That's my feel for it. We're trying to defend our position. Again, it comes back to what is our target market. And I suppose my thinking is what puts astrology on the front foot? What takes it out there? What creates more awareness? What creates more interaction with people? And is there a way forward with that? Now, I like the idea of astrological predictions against non-astrological predictions, and there's plenty of those out there in the market now. Will gold outperform silver over the next 6 months? Yes or no? There's billions traded on that. There's plenty of questions being asked now about the Democratic governors and senators. Will any of them declare for presidential candidacy by the end of the year or not? There's a whole host of world events, economic events, social events that non-astrologers are predicting or forecasting, and there are significant events in that, and they are available widely on the internet. And there's no discrepancy about it. You tell me whether there's going to be a greater increase in gold or silver prices over the next 6 months. It's easily researchable. You can use any technique you want, and you can measure it against non-astrological predictions. Now, again, I don't know the statistics because I'm not a statistician. But the phrase I keep coming up with is this Breyer score about the probability and the extent to which something can be predicted, i.e., will gold increase in value more? Yes, by 80% sure, 50% sure. And it seems to be a different statistical measure to address real-time events with real-time scale influences. And bizarrely, this is what these pop astrologers do. There's no shortage of, I expect this big event to occur over the next few months. How many of them are predicting when the Ukraine war will end? How many are predicting if America will land troops on Iraqi soil, when the Strait of Hormuz will open? These questions are being researched academically, openly on the internet, and there's no astrological input. There's no shortage of questions out there. But again, I just think do we want to be in the corner doing fantastic work? And I actually think it is all fantastic work that's going on, but nobody's hearing us. We're banging on a shut door. Or do we join the real world and deal with some of these questions that pop astrologers might want to be seen to be doing, and serious astrologers might want to be seen to be doing? That's just my different slant on what's being said at the moment and how we actually grow what we're doing. I'll finish.
Brilliant, John. I love it. And I love Alexey's as well. I want to address one thing about what you first brought up, John, about who is the market? Astrologers, researchers? Do we want to do real world events that relate to what people are interested in? This question about who the market is something that I came to a conclusion about from the conference. We talked about the conference, but it didn't occur to me to mention this. But it was one of my big takeaways is that I believe, and this is something Cosmobiology Institute needs to hammer out, and you guys can help us hammer it out right now, and we bring it to the board and discuss, is I came to the conclusion that we are talking currently, Cosmobiology Institute is talking to researchers. We're not talking to practitioners very well. We think we are, but they don't understand 90% of what we're saying. And they want to learn it, but they don't know it. Christopher is going to he is developing a program to train people to think statistically. But my thought is there are two separate things. This is just my thought. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I don't know. But I'm guessing that we need to address two different groups of people in two very different ways. We need to have the research group that discusses research like we're doing now. And then we need to tell people interested in astrology, professionals, students, whatever, what we found out without so much technical detail, but summarizes it. So that's my feeling. There's two almost completely different things that we need to do. I'm interested in other people's thoughts about this.
Mm-hmm. I think most of the discussion in research, in astrological research now, takes place among the kind of people here, people who are either currently doing or are currently interested in evidence-based astrological research. As you say, we do need to reach out to the sort of general practitioner in astrology, make them more aware of what research has been done, what has been found, and get them to buy into research. And as we accumulate more results, we also need to be reaching out to the broader scientific community in certain ways, just to make them aware that there is this kind of research being done, and that some of the previous objections that the scientific community has made to astrology aren't that valid. For example, something that I often hear quoted is a statement that Carl Sagan made back in the 70s, that the only way astrology could work is through gravity, and that the doctor standing next to you when you're born, has a stronger gravitational effect on you than the planets or the moon. I think he said specifically the moon. But, since then there has been research done which in other fields by botanists and chronobiologists would show that there are certain plants out there which respond directly to lunar gravity, even though it's weaker than the gravitational pull of a person standing next to that plant. So, I mean, the broader scientific community needs to eventually be made aware that some serious research is going on in evidence-based astrology and results are being found. So we actually have three groups out there, in my opinion.
Right. Can I add something to that? Because
Sure.
this is something which hasn't been addressed at all, and that is that usually what is lacking when it comes to astrological research is something which Christopher is edging towards, and that is that we should also be prepared to try to answer what is the mechanism behind this. And if we consider Carl Sagan, for example, I would say that in evolutionary biology, there's quite a lot that is coincidentally telling us that yes, when life evolved, the moon was causing the tides, and it's in the ocean where life evolved, and we are effectively very sensitive to whatever causational path that occurs between the Earth and the Moon. And Carl Sagan, by the way, and I wanted to say this to you already during the conference, Christopher, is that he was actually one of from what I remember, he was one of the people that didn't sign a list, which was like almost like a burning of the astrologers. So doesn't seem to be a character of the overcritical scientist.
Well, you mean the Nobel Prize, the Buck list was signed by 172 persons,
Yeah,
including my
something like
personal,
that.
including my personal hero, Linus Pauling.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, what is interesting to me is the whole idea. Actually, there's two parts. There's one which is really detailed. I see a tension between the first and the fourth of the notes that you made there, Santino. The first one had to do with agreeing on criteria. Immediately when we try to agree on criteria, we are going to end up in the problem of causation. So this is related to how the moon, for example, might affect us. That's the one thing. But it's also the example that Alexei was giving actually defines the problem more for me than offers a solution. Because when the SMS is sent is not interesting. It's interesting when it is read by the person. And that immediately makes data collection more complicated because we don't have that sort of detailed data usually. And I didn't mean the fourth note that you made. I meant the tension between the first and the third, because then when we go to the third, um, I feel that I don't see that there are clear systems that people have not invested faith in already. So I'm a double Virgo, so maybe this is my system's critique is that I don't see the systems. I really don't. I mean, I see an elective community that are selecting parts of Chinese, parts of in Vedic and parts of Western astrology. Where is there really such a continuity? I don't know.
Yeah. I would like to add to what was just said. While on the one hand, I think exploring causal mechanisms is that's a very important endeavor. But on the other hand, I would also argue that astrology does not require causal relationships uh, to work and to be valid. All it requires is that there are certain correspondences between celestial and terrestrial events that replicate over time. Uh, and in chronobiology, which is, in a way, it's kind of a scientifically accepted form of astrology. It studies ways in which the sun and the moon influence biological life on Earth. And a term that they use is coming from German is Zeitgeber for a time giver. Uh, and so, these astrological configurations, they don't necessarily have to work in a causal way in the sense that we usually think of causality. They just need to be time givers, indicators that something will happen. And it's also possible that the relationship between celestial and terrestrial events, it may not be causal in the usual sense of that word, but more mathematical, such as we have in a fractal like the Mandelbrot set, where you do see that sort of above and below relationship in the Mandelbrot set, where the image of the Mandelbrot set, it repeats at different levels of scale or magnification. But, the big Mandelbrot set is not directly causing, those carbon copies of its image at finer levels of magnification. It's simply that uh, there's an underlying mathematics that creates the patterns above and below. And that may be
Mhm.
what happens in astrology rather than a physics explanation of causality. But I'll just throw that out there that it is important to explore causal mechanisms, but I still say astrology itself does not require causality in order to work, just simply correspondence. I
Oh,
see comments out there
And I
from,
had a little comment to go in the
yeah,
same
go ahead, Vincent.
direction.
Yeah.
To go in the same direction than Christopher. It's very simple metaphor. Very simple. Let's say you're at this railway station and the train is there and you're inside and you look at the clock with needles. When the needle comes to 12, the train starts. There's no causality.
hmm
It's a marker.
yeah, a time
So the
giver.
sky is full of little
Yeah.
needles going at different speeds.
I want to add something to this as well. I think that this concern about causality is almost irrelevant because most physics does not involve causality. In the 1700s, when Newton came up with his law of gravity, I mean, you can Google the quote, he says that the law is absurd. It's totally absurd. There's no way to understand it because gravity works instantaneously. There's no force. And he said, I have no idea. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. I only imagine that at some future time people can explain it. Primarily, what happens in physics, there are exceptions, but mostly when you think about it, is they are simply mathematical formulas that explain the behavior. There is no causality. So I'm always a little confused about why people talk about causality, because causality is not a main part of things in physics. They're mathematical models that work. And this is true before quantum theory, it's true before relativity theory. And over time, It just gets crazier and crazier as the mathematical models work, but there's no intuition or sense of why they work. You know,
I'd like to add something.
yeah.
If there, my argument with causality has always been, how do you explain progressions and directions?
I can explain them, but
I mean, in the sense of causality, I mean, you can say for transits, this is where something is happening in this time, but
it's a mathematical model. But, you know, my point is that
Yeah.
causality is not part of science. It
right.
creeps in once in a while. So I don't know why we talk about it. It's mathematical models. I have a mathematical model that explains why progressions work. Maybe the model works or doesn't, but it has nothing to do with causality any more than gravity has anything to do with causality. And then Einstein said space is curved. That's not some causal thing. And what curved space doesn't make any sense anyway. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
So instead of the force of gravity, we should call it the farce of gravity.
Yes.
What?
Yeah,
Even Newton would agree.
yeah,
He would
it's
agree.
it's interesting, even in transits, you know, when you say that transiting Mars is square your moon. Well, yes, Mars is right there in the sky at a certain place right now, but your moon is not something physical, that's something internal psychologically in a sense at this point. You know, the moon has
Yeah.
moved on from where it was at your exact moment of birth. I see another hand up, Sravia.
Oh, Stravia, yes.
Hey, so I just wanted to, I guess most of it is covered, but from mathematical point of view, what I look at it is if y is a function of defined variables from x through 10, I'm assuming x through 10 are planets, there is also a certain factor plus uncertainty, which we don't always consider as a variable and which we try to quantify, but there's always y is always a function of x through x1 through 10 plus uncertainty.
Hmm.
So y is always going to change in magnitude, but what we're trying to quantify is x1 through x10, which is in our control, but there's always this uncertainty which we can never quantify.
Yeah, and oftentimes I tend to think of that uncertainty or that error term as uh, I often think of it as free will when it comes to astrology. You know, that's the variable that we can't predict. You know, the stars may be steering you in a certain direction, but, you know, evidence is that most astrological effects are rather weak. And through an act of will, we can go against that astrological current. The metaphor I use is, you know, gravity is much stronger. If you jump out of an airplane without a parachute, it's pretty certain you're going to die. When you hit the ground, you can't use free will and go upward instead of falling toward the earth. But astrological effects, I think, usually tend to be weaker, and we can impact the end result through free will and other means. And, you know, that's the variable which makes astrology less exact, I think, in its predictions. But in many ways, to me, it's like the weather. We know
Mhm.
that overall, in a global sense, weather reports tend to work pretty well, but you know, oftentimes when we think the hurricane is going to be Category 5, it turns out to be Category 3 instead. When we think the storm surge is going to be 12 feet, it actually turns out to be 8 feet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And yet
Yeah,
overall, weather is still fairly good at predicting things.
yeah, thank you. The time is running out. So I
Time is
think,
running out. It is
yeah,
indeed.
I had, excuse me, I had prepared something to talk about my new research, but I think we
Oh,
won't
why
have
don't you
time.
mention it a little bit? You know, I think it's too
Okay, you
important.
stop me if it's too long, okay? I'll try
Yeah,
to
I'll stop you.
summarize. I'm not very good in English. So my goal was to replicate my matching test published in 2020 in Correlation which was intended as an answer to the famous Carlson test, which is the main anti-astrology argument that you find everywhere in Wikipedia and everything. That's that's the key. So probably everybody knows what is the Carlson test. Maybe Santino, you want to explain it in very short time?
I mean, the basic idea is, can astrologers pick out someone's chart among different charts, right? So it's really a test of, to me, it's a test of astrologers,
Yes.
their ability to interpret.
Yes. They had 3 charts and 3 biographies or description or meeting with people, and they have to make the good match, and they failed. So my goal is to fully automate the protocol, because even if they succeeded, skeptics would have said, oh, that's not astrology, that's ESP. So the protocol, my protocol at the time involved, and it's the same, 73 famous subjects selected from a book, objective criteria, celebrities. For each subject, I generate 2 types of word lists. An astro list, consisting of astrological keywords, descriptors generated by my expert system in Mastro, which claims to describe the subject on the basis of astrology. And the other list is a bio list, consisting of approximately 150 psychobiographical keywords generated by ChatGPT. That's the new issue. In 2020, I extracted the words in the book. So this was a human. Some people could say I was biased. This is not the fact, but I cannot prove I was not biased. The purpose of the test is to determine whether the astro and bio list corresponding to the same person are statistically associated rather than independent. To do this, I compare every bio list against every astro list. For each comparison, I calculate a similarity score based on the number of overlapping words. Then I convert this into a relative frequency by dividing by the number of words in the astro list. These comparisons form a square matrix, 73 by 73, in which the x-axis represents the subjects from the bio perspective and the vertical axis represents the same subject from the astro perspective. At each intersection, the matrix contains the score obtained by the comparison. So you make 73 times 73 comparison. My expectation is that the correct matches, that is the diagonal of the matrix. Diagonal means that Ickler is compared to Ickler. Should generally produce higher scores than the mismatch comparisons. To make it clearer, I convert the scores into ranks, although I suspect that this transformation may itself be related. Anyway, the goal is to show that the average score along the diagonal is significantly higher than expected by chance, or equivalently, that the average rank is significantly lower than expected. The best would be 1, 1, 1, first. This is a dream. To make the new thing that I haven't done in 2020, to make it more demanding, I added a control group of 77,200. I multiplied by 100. So I had 72 subjects. I multiplied by 100. I have now 7,200 additional subject, virtual subject, generated by the block shuffling technique, producing a total pool of 7,272 subjects. In effect, this turns the procedures into a search for a needle in a much larger haystack. I determined the rank of the correct match relative to all the subjects, including the control, the 70,271 alternative matches. Under randomness, I estimate that the expected average rank, if it was only random, should be 3,000, half of the 7,272. So it's 3,006, half of it, 50% would be the average. And you can evaluate also the standard deviation. When I apply, this is I send SOS. Can we say that in English? SOS to Christopher and Santino for what's coming on now. I'm going to tell, but we never met for the moment. When I apply a current statistical test, I obtain a highly significant p-value of the order of 10 minus 7. Ow! At first sight, this appears extremely encouraging. However, instead of stopping there, I decided to validate the protocol by randomizing the assignment of the names to the psychobiographical. I just shuffle it. And I discovered I wanted to create a complete chaos. And under these conditions, I should logically obtain a non-significant result. When I repeat this analysis, I still obtain weaker than 10 minus 7, but still around 10 minus 4.
Wow.
So that's nonsensical.
That's weird.
Outcome is completely crazy. So
Yeah.
I sent my SOS after 2 days of looking. First, I thought I had a bug in my Excel spreadsheet. I verified everything. And I think the problem is statistical. It's about the test I use rather than in the calculation. The fact that the significance persists even after randomization suggests that my test may be not appropriate and that some structural bias exists within the protocol.
Yeah.
It's very problematic that now because you were in freeze since we know that terribly sad death of Peter stopped everything. So, but ChatGPT helped me. And at this stage, I thought my test was not appropriate, and it was confirmed by it was not a good, because it's a bit technical, but it's not a normal. If you look at the means, different means you obtain, it's not a normal curve.
Oh.
Okay.
So
just
I'm nearly finished.
Yeah.
The punch is coming. So how can you find an appropriate method to check? The answer is very simple. Using a Monte Carlo protocol. The Monte Carlo means that you have your matching, then you shuffle. I shuffle 100,000 times. And each time that you got a better diagonal, even if it's random, is counted. And at the end, let's call it a success. Actually, it's not a success. It's something I don't want. But and actually, each cell measured the similarity, as we said. And at the end, with the Monte Carlo method, you count how many times it's finished. How many times these permuted means are equal or greater than lower, I mean, because it's the rank, lower than the original means. And this you divide by the number of trials, which is 100,000. And the p-value is low, it's higher, but it's still significant. It's 2 multiplied by 10 minus 3. This is my result that I think that I could publish after submitting it to my friend and critics.
Well, just to summarize some key points, there's always a chance in our research that we've overlooked something, that that there's some bias or some statistical anomaly, something causing a problem. And that's why research just has to be ongoing. You know, in academia, you have thousands of universities and tens of thousands of people verifying, checking, doing variations. And we have a small group of people, and we need to keep double, triple checking, checking with each other. I mean, the effort that you went through, Vincent, to first you found something that, oh my God, there's some weird statistical thing going on, and then doing a more thorough test, it can be a long, hard road,
Hmm.
much longer and harder than people could ever imagine to find things. I mean, Vincent and I have commiserated about the number of times we both had the same experience with financial astrology that we thought we found something and then we didn't. And it's a real tenacious battle that we're in. And this goes back to just summarize because we are over time. That goes back to the point that Vincent was making and Alexey was making about being careful, about defining things clearly, about not skipping steps, because even when you're fanatically careful, things can slip by. And then when you're purposely sloppy, like I've been too often, and I've stopped doing it, you're really asking for trouble. It's really a long, hard journey to establish these things.
Yeah. And it sounds like you were doing a combination of Monte Carlo methods and non-parametric methods since you were just comparing ranks.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
this is it.
yeah, definitely.
I hope this
And,
time is
and that
correct.
and that can give you higher p-values by itself.
At the beginning, yes, but I hope that the Monte Carlo method is robust.
Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
I think so. I think so.
yeah. Okay, any last
Uh,
comments? We're a little bit over our hour and a half. Um,
just a question to Chris. Can you stay a few minutes after the meeting because I'm working since 3 days on your article because I've been asked to review it. So I
Oh,
have a few
okay.
questions for you.
Okay.
okay, this was a fantastic meeting. Really, really wonderful. We really dig into some critical issues um, and different perspectives. You know, the things Alexei brought up, that John brought up, um, ways of framing that you have an error term, as Flavia pointed out. These are just ways of looking at things that I think are very, very important. I think the level of discussion here, very sophisticated, very helpful, and yeah, just wonderful.
Hey,
Um,
Santi, this is Shravya. May I add a few points, please?
yeah,
So I really like the idea that Christopher put forth. Like, if we can define some problems and work at them as a team, I think that would be big wins for us to even like showcase the work we are doing here at Cosmobiology Institute. I think right now everybody is working on their own research and silos, and we come together, yes, and we exchange ideas. But if we can just knock down some of the big things as a team, I think that would be a great thing to showcase.
I agree. Thank you. Okay, are we good?
Hmm.
Well, thank you so much. We could go on and on, but thank you so much. And if you want more, I'm going to meet. um, what will be day and a half from now. Um, okay, thank you very much. Have a good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. God bless.
Thank you.
Don't Santino, don't close the
Oh,
meeting because
I won't
I need
close.
to talk with
I'll just
yeah,
stop
but
the.
I got to talk 5 minutes with Christopher. You may
Yeah,
stay if you want.
yeah. I'm just going to stop the recording.
It's not private.